So very much would like to start and ask each to introduce themselves. Maybe you could take 30 seconds and actually talk a little bit about what you do and your background a little bit.
Okay, my name is Colin Simmons. I am a director in auxiliary services. So we run the business units on campus, everything from the stadium and the arena to parking, married family housing, print and mail, 10 business units. I'm actually the interim associate vice president as well for auxiliary services as we are looking for a replacement. So my daily job is a mix of all of those auxiliary units. One of the things I'll speak to about tonight is commuter services as well. I lead that team at commuter services in the future as far as transportation and parking needs for campus specifically is one of the reasons I'm here to talk tonight.
My name is John Creer. I'm the Chief Real Estate Officer for the University of Utah. I've been here a couple of months, but I'm raised here. I went to Wasatch Bryant East MU. So did my folks, my grandparents, and my kids all went to the UN East High. So we have deep roots in this part of town. I've been gone for about 22 years. I came from Arizona State University, where I was the real estate officer down there for them. And the university recruited me here to come run all their real estate activities.
My name is Andrew King. Got to meet a couple of you before we got started here today. Look forward to meeting the rest of you. I direct campus planning for the University of Utah. Our small little division inside of planning, design, and construction department manages the campus master plan. So we look at where we want to grow, how we want to grow, how do we achieve it, how are we as responsible and as sustainable as we can in that document and its implementation. We are a relatively small team, but consider ourselves skilled and experienced and trying to do what's right for the U, the surrounding neighborhoods, and most importantly, the students on campus and giving them the best experience that they can. I also kind of grew up not too far from here, an East High graduate, University of Utah graduate, both my degrees were from there. What else? I've been at the U working in this capacity for almost 5 years now. Was at several other municipalities before that and some in private practice before that. So anyway, very happy to be here with you tonight. You've gone.
Yeah, they know me.
Okay.
Okay, and I know that tonight we're not necessarily going to have time for every question that we are interested in or even in the future. So we are going to compile these and ask the U to respond to anything that we can't get to tonight, and we will make sure we will publish those out. So I'd like to begin with a couple, and then you, as the panel, can decide who wants to answer. Here's the first one. Why is growing bigger better?
Yes. I'm the real estate guy. I don't know. I'm sure they do.
I'll take the shot. Oh, you want to go? No. Okay. Got it. I grabbed the mic first. I don't know if growing bigger is better is necessarily the right term. I think it's just what's coming. We're in one of the fastest growing states in the country. We're the premier higher education institution in the state. And we've created an environment through our amazing faculty and our health sciences that it seems to be a place where people want to be. We do have some ambitious growth goals that are really centered around the student experience and providing a world-class institution that members of the state, people that live in the state, people that live out of the state can come to and get a world-class education. So it's really something that's kind of just happening, even though the president has some ambitious goals for growth. If you look at our historic growth over the last 10 to 15 years, we're growing at a 2 to 3% rate every single year. And so that growth is kind of just coming, and so we want to be as responsible again and as sustainable as we can in how we manage that growth. Do you want to add to that?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, great. Is there a legal way to require new students to leave cars at home? Transit-oriented is great, however, by experience, every renter seems to need and want 1 or 2 cars. And many of them are living in homes, I'll add this, And sometimes those homes are broken into anywhere up to 6 units. And if you have a couple sharing a bedroom, you could have 10, 12 cars per house. Any thoughts on that?
Take that one.
Yeah, either way. The university is committed to intermodal transportation and access. We can't tell people to leave their cars at home. This is the Western United States, and I don't know anybody who's giving up their car anytime soon. But we are developing more ways to access the university more easily and more conveniently, and we're committed to that. Again, we're part of this neighborhood, and traffic is not something that we enjoy either. And quite frankly, it is very expensive, and it's not always the best use of public dollars to continue to just build more parking and more parking and more parking at today's cost. So again, we are looking at, as is every big employer, education institution, magnet for people, community magnet, we're looking for many, many ways to be more part of the future of transportation, and what does that mean? So we're preparing things like we're looking, if there is a new garage, we're looking for ways for it to convert to other uses in the event that in the next 10, 20, 30 years, people are driving fewer cars. We don't know the future of that. So again, we're committed to intermodal transportation, and really for a couple of reasons, and I'll just jump to something else. Part of the university's growth plan is to come off of the hill and to do satellite campuses throughout the valley. We know that we need to do a couple of things. One, growth, to sort of finish the thoughts that were earlier, is we know that as the primary provider, and part of our mission and mandate is to provide an education for Salt Lake County and Summit County higher education. That is our mission as a university. And we know that not all kids have access to that education, not all kids take advantage of that education. So we know that we need to do things by taking some of our educational components to them and make education easier. And with that, we're committed to how is the university interconnected throughout the valley. If we take certain programs or start certain satellite campuses throughout the valley, how are they interconnected to the rest of their university experience? So again, traffic is a difficult one, parking is an annoying one, and we're committed to figuring those things out, quite frankly, for the quality of life, both in this neighborhood, but at the university, and the experience at the university.
Thank you. Would you break down how many faculty and staff will be required to support the additional growth in students of 40,000? How many total people are we talking in terms of an increase?
It's going to have to be proportional. I don't know that we have a total to give you tonight, but I think if we're committed in many, many ways to think about small class sizes, right? Thinking about what that student experience should be, could be, what the quality and exceptional educational experience should be. I think thinking about national standards, thinking about our peer and aspirational institutions, we want to make sure that we've got small classes as best we can have them. I don't know how many of you said that you were at the U at some point. I don't know if your experience was with large lecture halls, and I'm not going to ask about the quality of some of that experience, but we know a lot about how humans learn, and keeping that ratio down is a priority, right, to ensure. So I'm hedging toward there will be a number of faculty, right, to make sure that the quality experience is great. And the same is true really on the staff side. If we think about a robust and holistic student success agenda, it means academic advisors and the like. So we're still working on some of those projections to think about, what are those ratios and how do they work out over time in an incremental kind of way.
How are we doing? Good so far? All right. Here's kind of a core one. How will the U be a good neighbor related to its growth plan and our neighborhood? Will you help us protect our historic district?
Can you help us with the what again?
Protect our historic district.
Couple things. One, doing what we're doing tonight. Come and give, again, we're a university, and we may or may not agree on everything. Matter of fact, I'm going to guess that we're not going to agree on everything. But what we should agree on is how do we communicate? How do we let you know what our plans are, and how do we take your feedback and process that feedback? And we're committed to that, as Chase mentioned earlier. It's important to us, again, to be part of this growth in this neighborhood and this overall fabric. A couple of things. The university's been here for 125 years, something like that. We're going to be here for another 125 years and beyond. So we care deeply about what gets built, both on our campus and off our campus, for a couple of reasons. One, we live with it. We're not the typical impact developer who builds buildings, makes money, and then leaves town and doesn't live with it. We live with the aftermath of both public development that we will be doing, and we live with the aftermath of private development. And so we're very conscientious about the quality of the development, the type, what it is, who does it, both on our campus and off of our campus. Because again, it affects our students, it affects our education, it affects our quality of life. And the end goal here for us is not to build more buildings, is not to create more traffic, is not to build more parking. The end goal for us is to provide a high quality, low cost education for kids. All these things come with that. We also are a major healthcare provider, and we're also a major research institution. And we're building essentially our 100-year neighborhood as well. So we're very committed to that. But again, it's forums like this, telling you what we know when we know it, and taking your feedback.
When you talk about a student experience and wanting them to be integrated into the campus and having a living experience on campus, how far away from campus is too far away? Is the tracks, the transit corridor too far away where they can still get on a tracks line and get to the U, or how far is too far away for you to consider it being university a good experience?
Okay. Well, there are different components to that. It's one of the reasons why we're looking at satellite campuses, to have a presence more in the southwest, southeast, west part of campus, and quite frankly in downtown Salt Lake. Different areas that we're looking at. We're exploring, number one, what it means to be a satellite campus. We're exploring what should be there, what types of programs should be there. How can a student go there and get their entire education, or do they need to have some of the immersion up here at the Northeast Valley? So we're exploring all those types of things because we know a couple of things. And again, I'm not an educator, I apologize, but we do know a couple of things. One, if a student has a bad living experience, a bad transportation, it's inconvenient, it's unsafe, we know that they quit school. So that's our goal, is to have them to not quit school. So we're looking at things like, how do we increase student life? How do we make it easier and better for them to be here, as the president talked about it? How do we change from a commuter campus to what really is called more of an immersion campus? There's a lot of support that goes along with that. But at the end of the day, if a student's living in a non-university project and they're off campus and it's unsafe or unclean or not a good experience, we're the ones that don't get to provide them an education because they leave. And that's why we're very committed to not only the housing and the educational and life experience that we provide, but also the ones that others provide, because they're our students. I don't know if that answers that or not.
We're going to just keep going here. What sites are you considering for additional housing for students, faculty, and staff?
Well, two things. A couple of things. One, we're also an employer, and we're also living in an age that I never thought we'd get to, quite frankly. It's expensive to live in this part of town, and we're a major employer. And it's very costly, and it's very time-consuming, and it's very frustrating to recruit, to credential, and try and retain staff that can't live here. It's also very challenging to say to a lot of our staff, I think our demographic of our workforce probably matches the demographic of the community pretty well. We have all levels of income, all levels of employee. And so we're trying to find ways to say, look, is there a way for us to also make this a better circumstance for you to work here? We're not sure what those answers are yet, but we're exploring them. Second, right now we're going through a process of determining how many student housing beds should we be involved in, both indirectly and directly. We're trying to determine that right now. What the process that Andrew and I are involved in is we're looking at best-in-class student housing developments across the country right now. We're actually going to go visit several of them. What have you done? What have you learned? How have you done this? And again, student housing is really sectioned. Freshman housing is very different than graduate housing. It's very different than married housing. It's very different from faculty housing. But we're exploring several different ways to do that. And what would be an appropriate off-campus pocket of housing? I don't know, but I do know a couple of things. There need to be enough students there so that we can provide security, programming, other university benefits, so that their quality of life is not so far removed from the university that they're disconnected. So we're trying to do things in a way where there are pockets of enough student beds, but we're not sure what those numbers are yet.
In terms of sites, do you know of sites? So let me just throw out a couple. So is it possible for housing to be built at Research Park? Have you reconsidered the stadium? And we would dig out the two proposals of Project Universe that were not picked, that were better than we felt the ones that was picked. But it had some really lovely screening from the neighborhood. It had wonderful housing. It had some good things involved in it that we noticed in the current plan that was last done by the one, I forgot their name now, that did the study. They proposed housing near the tracks line. There was actually a wrapped parking lot. There was plenty of parking for the Crimson Club because they utilized the slope of the hill and were able to make it less costly. So Research Park, on campus,
Sure.
stadium, are those potentials for your plans?
Well, we all live here in the northeast corner of the valley, and we know one thing. There isn't a lot of open space. There aren't a lot of development opportunities here. So we're looking at all the assets we have on campus and seeing if they're, number one, appropriate for that use, but also we're looking at all the growth needs we have. We have healthcare, we have research, we have academic, in addition to housing. And what's the quality of that? Again, I'm not here to be, I've been here a couple of months, I'm not here to be critical of anything we have done, but if you go up to the U Hospital, it gets awfully crowded awfully fast. So the notion that because you have an open space, you should put a building on it is not the way we're approaching it. We're actually approaching it, what is the best overall strategy for all these things to work together successfully? Now, that does mean, again, we know to achieve our future goals, we're going to have to come off the hill. And we're going to have to do satellite pockets of certain things throughout the valley. And that's in our overall planning that we're doing right now. What's appropriate to do that? How's it appropriate? And where should we be and where should we go?
I'm sorry, it seems like most of these are your way, so.
What's that?
These questions.
Okay.
What type of business district would the U dream of to potentially have on or near campus? And what services might it include?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to hog the mic if you want to go.
He's got a nice voice to listen to that, so it's not too bad. Sorry, will you repeat the question one more time? What kind of services are we interested in?
In what type of business district would the U dream of potentially having? So we're thinking, obviously, the 13th and 2nd South, 13th East, 2nd South.
Yeah.
For a long time, the U has been interested in making the boundary between the neighborhood and the U more transparent by strengthening that business district. What type of things would you dream of in there? Because part of the reason it's not working now is some things were removed. Used books used to all be there, copy used to be there. That brought people down, for instance.
Yeah, it's hard to dream too much because there are constraints that exist today that may not have existed 20 years ago, 50 years ago, 100 years ago. So we've got a lot of things that we have to work with today that have value that we want to protect to the greatest extent that's possible. But we dream of a campus that students can live at 24 hours a day. And that does not mean that we encourage or enhance opportunities for those late night parties that we know students love to have. But we want a place that students can come here and live here. So services like grocery, services like retail. We had a group here the other day. They finished a tour of campus and they said, hey, where can we go eat? And it was kind of this, well, and then we pointed them down to some of my favorite places like B&D and Rio Grande Cafes there now. But enhancing that town and gown atmosphere would be absolutely fantastic. We know that there have been faculty that we have lost because they come here and they say, where's that relationship? Where's that town and gown that I get to, leave campus after a long day and experience something not associated with the academic world? How we go about doing it, how we accomplish it, I think is still up in the air in how we get there, but making sure that we have services that allow students and faculty, frankly, to have most, if not all, of their daily needs met.
One of the benefits that we who live here know exists, why everybody wants to come here, is because we're so close to Trolley 9th and 9th, University of Utah. Literally, you can walk downtown. You have massive transit, and it's great. Are those too far away for folks to be able to have the kind of experience you're talking about business-wise?
I don't know necessarily that they're too far away. I think Fort South and downtown Salt Lake City are a huge asset to the University of Utah. And one thing that we're trying to work on right now is that commuting aspect, that transit. We have fantastic transit during the day. Lots of these activities that students and other people want to be involved with that are happening in those areas, they get down there on tracks or on a bus or on a shuttle, and then those services end at 10 o'clock. And we're trying to fix that. We're actually working with UTA right now to try and get services that are not only more frequent, but they run earlier and they run later. Because if those services are provided, A, it takes away the need to jump in my car. Hopefully it takes away the need for me to even bring my car to campus. But that now gives people that opportunity to extend their social circle, right? They can go further places because they have a way to get back during those off hours.
That's actually a great example of where we, as a neighborhood and the U can work together in working with UTA and with the city and so forth to, collaborate and to get our needs met in some way. So we have the same needs, right?
Yeah.
The university is already a very large user of water with growth. How will the university realize regulate its water usage, reduce its water usage and help with maintaining the Great Salt Lake? And the second part is, what actions towards sustainability are the plans to reduce water and energy usage of the U?
Such a fantastic and relevant question, and it is at the peak of probably a third of the meetings that I'm sitting in right now, and probably others as well. But the University of Utah, how much time does everybody have? We have got so much going on, and the University of Utah, not only are we an academic campus, we want to lead the way. We want people to come to our campus and say, how is the University of Utah doing it, so that I can take that home and I can apply it to my yard, to my farm, to my golf course, to my business, whatever that might be. So we, in 2019, we had, I'm going to get these numbers off, I want to say it was a 25 to 30% reduction in the overall use of our irrigation water on campus, simply by installing a weather track system. I am not our grant supervisor, so I cannot tell you the details of how WeatherTrack works, other than it tracks storms, it tracks our water system, and it has made our system so much more efficient in how we use it and when we use it, that just with that, we've reduced the amount of irrigation water that we use on campus by somewhere in that ballpark, 25 to 30%. On top of that, the University of Utah has a committee of people that are working every single week to look at places on campus where we don't need heavy water use. For any of you who frequent our campus, particularly during the summer, you probably noticed that a lot of our grass went brown. Probably even more brown than we wanted it to go. We're experimenting a little bit and learning as we go. But we're kind of trying to change the culture a little bit and say, you know what? We live in a desert, we live in a hot, dry place that seems to be getting hotter and drier. Brown might just have to be the new normal for campus. We're trying to do it in a way where in the spring, fall in particular, it can bounce right back. We want to make sure that we provide an aesthetically pleasing place for our students, faculty, staff, and visitors. So we're trying to find the right balance to do that. I could honestly go on and on if there's anybody with more questions about that. Say that again?
The energy consumption piece.
Yeah, absolutely. Please.
Just to piggyback on with water, we also, based off safety recommendations, it ended up being mainly for energy reduction as well. A few years ago, with some of the strategies that we had, we moved pockets of classes at night into fewer buildings on campus. So the short version of that is, instead of having every single building on campus open every night, we moved it into what we call university neighborhoods on certain buildings. So the business complex, for example, only 1 of 4 buildings were open at night for night classes from a safety perspective and from an energy perspective. So I don't have those numbers handy either, but the amount of energy that was reduced and helped solve a student safety concern, a lot of reduction there. We can come back with some numbers associated with that, but that was along with the water, the energy reduction was pretty drastic.
So, yeah, I don't know if that answers it adequately.
It's
There's
a
a
good
lot of
start,
sustainability
right?
stuff
It's a
we're
good
doing.
start. There's more to talk about, obviously. There's some concern, and this actually happened also with Project Universe. There was some concern about competition with landlords who are renting to students and not taking away income from families and from landlords who are renting now, and the U not needing to compete, not having the same competitive disadvantage of property taxes and some of those things that a landlord would actually have. I wonder if you could speak to that.
Are you talking about single-family owners that rent their homes, or what?
I
Help me
think,
understand exactly,
let's see.
just so I respond correctly.
that it said, how can the U compete fairly with our neighborhood housing when the U does not have the burden of property taxes, business license fees?
Yeah. Well, a couple things. We're at about 34,000 students, and I believe the goal is to get to 40-some-odd thousand approximate students. We will not be building 40,000 beds. So the majority, the overwhelming majority, will always be out in the community. What we want to try and do, a couple things. One, we really want to address the freshman experience and the sophomore experience. And we want to do it a couple of ways. One, build quality, but we also want to build reliability. In other words, their experience. These are kids that have just left home, 17, 18, 19 years old, first time living away from home, some of them from out of state, away from their families. And we want to make sure that those are safe. We want to make sure that they're reliable. We want to make sure that they're connected to programs. That's difficult for the university to do with 5,000 single-family residential homeowners who all have a different idea of what a rental experience is. But that is required, that inventory will always be required for us to be able to be an immersion campus versus a commuter campus. So again, we not only have 30 to 40,000 students, we have several faculty and others. So I can't imagine, I don't know this for sure, some will be displaced for obvious reasons, but I can't imagine the rental opportunity and business around the university going away because of what we're doing. Matter of fact, I would see it being enhanced, quite frankly. Now, private development's another matter, which we're not involved in. Multifamily development seems to be the development of the day. Everybody's doing it. And again, that's a city issue, not necessarily a university issue.
And we as a neighborhood, like, I'm not sure if you were here when I mentioned that we have a lot of zoning that would allow that. It's not really those spots. In fact, we know a lot of spots we could identify to you that would be great for buildings. that are fairly close. But what often happens is the out-of-state developers, thinking that they've got your blessing, will come and want to get exceptions and tear into the neighborhood. And so we're trying to have more of an acupuncture approach instead of a mass teardown, and we hope that that's possible. Do you have current plans, or what are your current plans for the Fine Arts West Building, or what used to be the West Institute?
Well, a couple things. On that block that you're talking about, we own one parcel. And we're not a jurisdiction, so we can't tell private landowners what to do with their parcels. So that's, just want to make sure that we're a private landowner just like everybody else. But what's more important to us is that's our front door. That's right on our doorstep. It's been that way forever, and it'll continue to be that forever. And it's really where the university meets commerce and residential. Will it stay that way for another 30, 40 years? I don't know. We don't own any more land, so there's not much more we can do. But we are very, very interested in what gets developed there, because again, we're going to live with it forever. We're very concerned about who's developing there, what they're developing there, and what both the city will allow. And again, we're not jurisdictional, so we're like you, we're just a voice in what goes on there. But we're going to be very interested and hopefully involved in some way, we don't know yet, what materializes there for a couple of reasons. One, if we want to create what would be more traditionally a college town experience, we don't have that at the university. It's really difficult to say, let's have faculty live closer to work, let's have students live on campus for a better educational experience, and then tell them all to go eat at the Union Building. So there has to be some quality of life. There aren't very many commercial corridors that touch the university. In fact, the obvious one is there. And so yes, we're as concerned as you are about what that may ultimately become. What I do know is this: for whatever reason, Salt Lake City in particular, the Wasatch Front more broadly, and Utah quite frankly, is on every investor, every developer across the country. Everybody wants to develop here. And things are coming. Utah's growing. The university's growing. Things are changing. So we're just trying to be part of that, because again, we're going to have to live with it. But we're very sensitive about that particular spot, because it's our front door, it's our doorstep, and it's where some of that stuff might occur.
We have done several master plans on that edge in the past. In fact, we had a collaborative effort with Nan Allen, who was started the Metropolitan Planning Department under Dean Shearer at the time when she was dean. And we worked very closely on that committee to actually look at some ideas, and the students came up with some great ideas on that plan. We're interested. We have several architects on our board, and we're interested in our neighborhood. We're interested in doing a master plan of that edge area, and we were hoping that the U would work with us on that and let us do a collaborative, informal master plan on that edge area so that we could actually share ideas and come up with the best. Are you willing to do that?
Yes, we want to be collaborative, but there's kind of a technicality about being a state agency and master planning over property we don't own. It's not if I were a homeowner and a big state agency was planning on something on my home and I didn't know about it, I'd be a little upset. So we don't quite have the latitude that you may have. So I don't know that we would really engage in a formal public planning process and things that we don't own. But we are a landowner, and we certainly would participate as a landowner.
Great.
We would certainly participate as giving our opinion and what we'd like to see. But it's a little bit dangerous for us to start planning on top of people's private homes without knowing anything more about it, being who we are.
We also have no formal role in that. It's not
Yeah.
a city master plan that's been
Yeah.
created, although there have been city formal adopted master plans for that area.
And that could be, the city certainly is able to
Yeah.
do that because they control zoning and
Yeah.
it's their jurisdiction.
But we do want to have some ideas, so
Sure.
kind of an idea session. Maybe master plan's the wrong thing to call it.
Sure.
But participating in the discussion you're willing to do, right? And
Oh, absolutely,
be involved in it. That'd be
Yeah.
great. Okay.
Yep. And I'll just add this one piece of flavor because it's a frustration of my job. It's a frustration of Andrew's job and almost everyone else that works at the university. We're a big place. We have more people in charge than we do not in charge. We have more people that are siloed and do their own thing. It's really difficult to get the university to speak with one voice. It's a public university. We try to do that a lot, and this is part of that. So we'll participate in those things, but we're going to have a lot of different, probably as many diverse opinions as you have as a neighborhood. So just know that.
We have found, I'll give you one project, the parking lot that got built on First South. Mike Perez let us talk him into doing a collaborative process on that one, and that was with the neighborhood. So we actually had steering members who sat on your steering committee who helped with that. Now, there were actually faculty members and staff who overrode all of us and had an even stronger voice. But in the end, that parking garage turned out really exceptional. It took a little more time, but the impact on the neighborhood and on the U was that it was outstanding. And we just hope that we can do some of that same thing. We used to have a monthly community and university meeting and a transportation meeting. So we used to have 2 meetings a month where we used to get together. Slowly they went to quarterly, and now they're once a year kind of thing. And not everybody wants to do collaboration. Some want to just be mad. We don't want to be mad. We want to do collaboration from our area. I had one question here, and I don't remember the tree, but they're very concerned about the tree next to the Pioneer Memorial Theater that with the new building going in, whether the tree is being saved. And I remember which particular tree, but I think it's a large tree. And there's some general concern about green space going away and trees going away.
I can actually answer what that is. It's called a Japanese Zelkova, and it's part of the state arboretum, and I'm sure that's why there's the
part of the state
concern.
arboretum that
Yes.
actually Ellen Wells helped create.
And I can speak to that. So, and yeah, it is Japanese Zelkova. It's actually a state champion. So, according to records, it's the largest Japanese Zelkova in the state. And we are 100% committed to protecting and preserving that. We're working very, very closely with the design team, the contractor, to make sure not only from a building perspective, but from a construction perspective, that we are doing everything we can to protect that tree and other trees that are part of College Lodge. Absolutely.
There are many more, but we're actually a little over time for the panel side. We feel like we've hit some of the major points. Anybody feel like they?
Are you taking measures to reduce noise that is jumping off campus into the neighborhood?
You have specific noise that you're talking about? Are you talking about like chatter from students? Yes.
Fans
Yeah.
on the chemistry building, for instance.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, we are in study right now to understand what we can do specifically with the chemistry fans, understanding that those are noisy. We're not done, but what we have learned so far is that we have been running those at full capacity, and we don't need to. So I know one of the mitigation measures that we're looking at is reducing that, and Stacia, please correct me if I'm getting any of this wrong, but reducing that to a 40%, 50% capacity how you run those fans, which should greatly reduce the amount of noise that's coming from those fans.
Not just the jet engines on the new library or the old library building, they've got them there. They're kind of
What old library building?
I can't remember what you named it, but it was the library for the youth. John would know what I'm talking about.
Crocker Science?
Yeah.
Where the museum used to be?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, fans that are coming off of that?
That makes noise, on top of chemistry building, physics building,
So,
just throwing these things up.
yeah.
It's right
Like a
in
shame.
the neighborhood.
So the short answer is yes. We're looking at this study. We're using chemistry as our case study to understand what the problems are there and how we apply it to other buildings on campus. So the short answer is yes. I don't have anything more specific than that at this time, but, and Stacia, I imagine there's more to come, right?
Yes, yeah, we've got active projects running on it.
The shuttle buses are allowed to use, because I don't think they need
Colin?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question. What was it?
The good news there is we are in works to, the fleet of shuttles has converted from diesel to CNG over the years. That are much quieter, the CNG shuttles. Now there'll be the transformation as the technology gets a little bit better. It's still not 100% there, but we have 5 electric buses now on campus. So the transition's happening, but I will tell you this, the efficiency of the electric buses aren't what they need to be in order to run the size of fleet we have. So we do have to remain with, our goal is about 4 diesel buses total on campus, just for emergency purposes, but the goal is to transition to fully CNG and electric for the future. Over the next probably 10 years, we should be fully converted. So yes, that noise reduction will take place.
I want to really thank this panel for coming. I hope it wasn't too bad. I hope it was, okay, oh, we got one more, yes?
I'm sorry, I want to return right back to that first question, because everything you've said has really rang true to me in terms of wanting to make the campus and the student experience higher in quality, right? The one thing that I guess I still want to push back a little on with the president or whoever has seen that vision is, why is more numbers of students necessary? And is it in fact in conflict with that experience, as well as the friction you're going to cause with your neighborhood?
Sure.
I don't disagree with any of those high
Sure.
ideals that you had, but everyone that spoke to those high ideals is in direct conflict with adding more and more and more. Just because they'll come doesn't mean you should build it. In other words, real quick, I work on the Colorado River for 40 years. The only reason I still have happy guests is because 40 years ago, somebody had the vision to limit the number
Sure.
of human beings so
Sure.
they didn't ruin the experience.
Sure.
That's what why
Yeah.
are we trespassing on the experience for a few more students and seats in
Yeah, again,
already pressed for resources
Sure.
out of this world?
Let's kind of break that into little pieces. The valley population is growing. And the way the university system works is Utah State University is what's called a land grant university. They can go anywhere in the state. The University of Utah is assigned, like all the rest of the universities in the system, a location. So our mandate is to provide higher education, public education, to the citizens of Salt Lake County and Summit County. So you're not going to see a University of Utah. You'll see the health system, that's different. But you're not going to see the University of Utah in St. George, because they have their own university. So we can only go here. So there's that. The population is growing. So the growth is really not grow just to get bigger. It's to grow because we're not keeping up with the population base, and not all the kids have access to higher education. So our mandate, a public mandate, is to deliver a high-quality, low-cost education to the citizenry of Salt Lake County. I don't know the number of percentages that do and don't go to college, but I know there's a lot. So we're doing things like this. We're going to communities. In other words, we're building a hospital in West Valley City for a number of reasons. We're also going to that community and trying to find out what are the barriers to higher education. And we're then now looking at taking programs to wrap around that hospital because we'll have a major presence there. And so we're building a pod of activity for education to get closer to those students. So growth just isn't about, hey, we want to make more money, which actually is antithetical to our mission. It's because the citizenry is growing. Salt Lake County is one of the fastest growing counties in the country. And so the university's mandate is to keep up and to provide that. So the university also knows that there are a lot of students that do not have access that may want it. So we're preparing that. We're not just going out, and trust me, this is not a money-making venture for us. This is a mandate to provide that education. And we don't believe we're not meeting the entire mandate, and that's why the president is saying we need to increase enrollment. It's not just for the sake of increasing it. There are a lot of root causes to that we're trying to address. I don't know if you have anything else to add to that, but that's really at the heart of that.
And I know there's much more for this discussion and much more for this conversation. What we're trying to do as a community is start the conversation and build the relationships and begin to collaborate and see if we can't work together on solving problems. And it takes, both sides, and it's going to take much more than just one night. So anyway, I so much appreciate everybody's question. We have more that are in the queue, and then we'll get those to Sean, who will help us get answers. And we just really appreciate your coming tonight and being part of this. Thank you. Next, we're excited to hear from Deborah from our Connected Learning and Lifelong Learning. After that, we will have Paul Kirk from U Athletics and Andy Hogg from City and Metropolitan Planning. And last but not least, we'll bring Andrew back to talk a little bit about the Applied Science Building.
Great. Thank you, Chair Hunter. I'm Deborah Kiak-Franson. I'm the AVP and Dean of University Connected Learning. That's a fairly new unit on the campus that brought together teaching and learning with technology, which is now digital learning, and that provides the tech infrastructure for all of our teaching and learning, including Zoom and Canvas, all of those things that were so vital during the pandemic. We also support the U Online brand, and we assist units all across campus to develop high-quality online programs, degrees, certificates for students in Utah and around the globe. And we also have community engagement and continuing education. Now, I heard from that table back there, how many of you, and then Chair Hunter, you had somebody attend one of our programs, I believe. So Club U. So how many of you have participated in a continuing education course? Okay, I'm going to try to triple that number just with this commercial tonight. So you all have brochures on your tables. Bleacher people, I put it back there at the end of that row there. And what I'd like to do is just briefly welcome you, invite you into our, to sit back and have lemonade with us on our metaphorical front porch. We have a 100-year journey for all of you and all of your family members and your friends, and we really want to bring the community into the U to learn for a lifetime. We call it the 100-year journey. It starts with youth education. We I just found out today that we have 5,000 enrollments for our Club U summer program. That's an 11-week day program where students come in and from ages 5 to 14, and they have all-day programming, and you'll see them around campus in their cute, adorable little t-shirts. I saw the salmon group today, and it was very exciting to see them. We also have camps all year round where students can learn about robotics, or learn more about the arts. They can actually start to see themselves at the University of Utah. They can actually start to see themselves as university students from a very young age. We also have another program, and Dr. Haygood also has several programs to get K-12 students prepared for college. Ours is the PATHS program. It's a cohort program. If you know anybody who's first generation, an underrepresented minority, we take them from 9th grade to 12th grade to get them prepared with the skills and the behaviors they need to be successful in high school and then in college. Now, if you're older than 17, which I think some of you are, we also have learning that continues on. We have just reinstated, not everybody got this, Lunch and Learn. These are free series that you can come to. If you didn't get one, there's that back there, Chase is waving that, thank you. These are just 1-hour lectures and networking about any number of topics. We you all have the opportunity to take non-credit courses, so you can pay, and if you're older than 65, you can come in through HB 60, House Bill 60. If you're a veteran, you can come in through Senate Bill 45, and for $25, you can take the same classes as an auditor without the stress of final exams. We also have lifelong learning. I think a lot of you have participated in these programs. This is a very full schedule that we have for the summer, so you can do cheese tasting. Apparently you can do wine and popcorn. I don't know why, but you can. You can also do photography, fly fishing, recreation courses all through us. And then, if you are 50 or better, we encourage you to become a member of the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute. This is lifelong learning for 50 and above, and it's a great program, it's a vibrant community, and we encourage you to take advantage of that. So, another vote, how many of you will consider going to our website, continue.utah.edu, now to look at classes? I didn't get triple. Okay, next time I'll try again. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being here and being part of the community. And we hope to see you at University Connected Learning and Continuing Education.
Hello, everybody. Appreciate the opportunity to be here and share a little bit about the incredibly successful 2021-22 athletic and academic year our student athletes have had at the University of Utah. And it's good timing as we're finishing up the final weekend of team competition this year. Does anybody know we still have one team competing this weekend? Who knows who it is? Track and field, yes. 2 individuals at the NCAA Track and Field Championships. We're very proud of that. This finishes up the athletic year this weekend in Eugene, Oregon, and then in 2 short months we'll be playing sports again. So it's a quick turn, but as I mentioned, we're just incredibly impressed by and excited by the performances of our teams this year. By several objective measures, this is the most successful year we've had across the board with our 20 sports programs. 8 of our programs made NCAA postseason competition, 7 in NCAA championships or a tournament, and then the football team in the Rose Bowl, of course. So never has that happened in history where 8 programs as a team went to postseason competition. In addition, we had 4 conference championships. 2 of them were Pac-12 titles, gymnastics, regular season, and the championships meet, and then football winning the conference championship game. That's never happened in our 11-year Pac-12 history that we've had 2 Pac-12 champs. We also had the lacrosse team win the Atlantic Sun Conference regular season title, and the skiing team, of course, as a speed bump on the way to a national championship, again, won the Rocky Mountain Intercollegiate Ski Association Championship. So that makes 4 conference championships this year. Most we've had also in this time period that we've been in the Pac-12. 7 sport programs finished in the top third of their conference. And it's the highest ranking, the across-the-board ranking in a measure called the Learfield Athletic Directors Cup. It measures the NCAA postseason finish of all of your sport programs, and we had achieved our highest ranking through the winter standings, which completed with gymnastics and skiing, obviously an advantageous point in the year for that to be added up for our programs, but that was the highest we had since 1997-98 school year. The final rankings will come out in early July and represent the sports that had finished up after the winter rankings. Academically, this is where we're incredibly proud and impressed. The year that was just completed, the combined average GPA of our student athlete, 550 plus student athletes across 20 sport programs, a combined average GPA of 3.315. It was just shy of the record set just last year, 3.407. So incredible work being done there. It's also important to note that we've had 5 consecutive semesters now, and the only 5 in our history, in which every sport program was above 3.0.
Yeah.
Not a single program was below that. Some up into the 3.8 range for the women's cross country program, if I had that right. So 4th consecutive year that we've had a 93% or higher rate in the NCAA graduation success rate, the GSR that comes out every year. And that ranks 2nd in the Pac-12 behind only Stanford. Okay, we'll move on to an event coming up. Pac-12 Sustainability Conference. The university and the athletic department are proud to be co-hosting the Pac-12 Sustainability Conference. It's the 6th year of this program, very important initiative across the entire footprint of the Pac-12. And it's here in Salt Lake City for the first time. This is the first time it's been held in person in 3 years. So registration for that can be found on utahutes.com in the story rotator at the top. There is a story about it and a link to registration. It's next Wednesday and Thursday, happening in multiple locations, but some of it at Rice Eccles Stadium. President Taylor Randall and Athletic Director Mark Harlan will both be speaking at that conference. There's a career fair, lots of really exciting things associated with that. As I mentioned at the beginning, it'll just be about 2 months before our teams are playing in competition again. We'll start with soccer in August and volleyball, and then of course cross country and football joining as well. So if any of you haven't been to a variety of our sporting events, we definitely encourage you to do so. Not all are ticketed events, and we'd love to have you come out and support our program. So any questions that anybody has? Okay. Thank you very much. Really appreciate the opportunity and all the support too from the community.
Hello, everybody. I guess I'm slightly the last session, but I'm going to keep it short. My name is Andy Hong, and I'm an assistant professor in the City and Metropolitan Planning. And I'm a new faculty member, so it's my first time coming to the community meetings like this. So I'm very much excited to work with all of you. And our students are very motivated. We have a lot of students working on community-based projects. One of the projects that one of our faculty members have done is the Thriving in Place projects, and we're trying to understand a lot of concerns and a lot of the issues that the communities are facing, and ways that we can actually work with the city government and the university, the campus operations to be able to make that linkage, not only just being the sole player in development process. So I'm also the director of the Healthy Aging University and Places Lab, HARP Lab, we call it. And one of the projects that we're working on right now is called Transportation for Seniors. So as we know, we're all aging. I'm no exception. And this is the flyer that we have developed as part of our project. And we have a survey that's running, and I'd like to welcome you to participate in our projects. And one of the goals of this project is to understand transportation issues from the perspective of older adults. We're not interested in building like a top-down infrastructure or trying to build rail lines here and there, but we want to understand the actual personal circumstances, personal experiences of people using public transit, as well as people who are struggling to actually drive. So we have members in our study group who are over 90s, who want to go out and want to hang out with friends and families, but they don't have any means, they don't have any transportation, because they can't really drive themselves. So we want to really understand deep down, what are the problems, what are the issues the older adults are having in terms of these mobility issues. And we are running a bunch of different projects in terms of addressing the place-based issues as it relates to older adults. So I'm going to circulate these flyers, and appreciate if you can participate in our projects, and I can be happy to discuss more after the meeting. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I came back.
Okay, all right.
Just us.
That's good. So I've got the pictures. Pictures are worth 1,000 words, right? I'm a visual person, so this is way better to actually look at something than maybe just to hear people talk all night. I just want to talk really briefly about the Applied Science Project. This is a crazy project. We're building it for the College of Science due to all the growth that they're experiencing. Anyway, there's still a lot in limbo. So I will tell you everything that we know so far about the project and do my best to be accurate and concise with what we know today. I will somewhat reserve the right for some things to change, and I'll tell you what won't change. But really quick, I think everybody here is pretty familiar with University Street and the project site, so you can see, I need a laser pointer, you can see PMT there on the right. You can see the old Stewart building, and then the new Crocker Science building, the new Manville building. So the project site is right in there. This is not a building footprint, I will get to that. But this is the area that we're looking. I'm gonna speak, does that work? Yeah, great, thank you. I will speak really quick just because it was brought up. Good one? So that state champion Japanese Zelkova is right here. And again, this is kind of showing construction impact, not necessarily where the building is going to land. So that will be outside the construction footprint. So this is the latest representation of what the site plan will look like. Really what they're trying to do, we have a commitment to the state. Stewart needed some new life. It was getting old and very, very outdated and not the kind of academic building that we wanted to offer to our students. So Stewart is going to get some new life. We worked really, really hard to make sure that that building was preserved and enhanced. We think it's important to the fabric of our campus. And then as an addition to that, we have kind of the new applied science wing, which is going to come down here. For a little bit of reference, this edge right here is about 20 feet shy of where the old College of Law is today. So if you can imagine where the old College of Law, well actually we can kind of see it right there. Right here, we're 20 plus feet shy of how close to the street this building would be in comparison to that. Really, really important to the project and the donor in particular for this is we understand that we're taking kind of an important area of campus from a landscape perspective. This has been there for a long, long time. We want to make sure that we're putting something of value back. So this is going to be kind of a small science quad that we're going to try and make world-class. We want it to be fantastic. We want it to be an asset to the students who are in the science program and everybody else on campus. And frankly, anybody who wants to just venture up onto campus and experience this area. Again, so these are kind of the latest representations of the scale of the building. Again, you can kind of see University Street here. You can see Fine Arts West. This looks really, really close to University Street. There's some other renderings. We're working with them on that to have better representation. But this is essentially where the building is going to sit. You can kind of see it's going to have a floor below, 1.5 floors below, and then 4 above. As a reference point, if you go out and you look at Crocker Science today, that is the height that we're matching. So the height of Crocker Science from an elevation perspective will be the same height that we are on this building here. Let's just stare at that for another minute. a little reference.
Andrew, is the 60 at the front, is that the distance from the road?
Yeah, that's the full distance from the building. Yeah. There will be, I'll mention this, there will be some construction impacts to the historic wall. It's going to make everybody gasp, including myself, but all of that is going to be restored and put back. As a matter of fact, we're taking advantage of this opportunity to do some needed repair work on that wall to make sure that it can last for the next 50, 60, 70, 100 plus years. Another angle of that, again, you can kind of see a little bit more context with Crocker Science, Stewart Building, Pioneer Memorial Theater, Old Law, those areas. Again, there's our Zelkova.
So you're rebuilding University Street?
Are we rebuilding University Street? We're not rebuilding, sorry, what?
The actual roadway with all the construction traffic.
We will be repairing anything that might get damaged from construction, but a full rebuild of the street's not part of this project. No. This is probably terribly not visible. Actually, it's a little bit better up there than it is on my screen. Essentially, what I wanted to point out was this line right here. This is kind of the official start of construction, early, probably the first third of the month of October. You will see what looks like construction activity before that. They're going to start putting fencing up, moving equipment in. We're actually going to be starting on the Stewart Building. There will be some abatement that starts a little bit before that. We anticipate most of that construction traffic will come from the 14th East side on University Street, where I think your community will really start to see this construction take off is in October when we start major construction on the applied science portion. So that is what we know about the project thus far. Questions?
What is the traffic impact going to be on University Street during the construction?
During construction, so their construction access is coming from University Street. So there's definitely going to be an influx of construction vehicles going through that area. We're very, very committed to make sure that obviously a SWIP is in place, but it's adhered to from a dust, noise, and debris perspective to make sure that we're not tracking out dirt and mud onto the street. But that is going to be the primary construction access point for this project. Yes?
4 South and 13th East is a highway, and you're going to be bringing all the trucks right up 13th, up 4 South, and then go north on University Street. So that intersection is really beat up, and it has been beat up for years.
Yeah.
So really, your construction is going to impact 2.5, 3 blocks away.
Yeah, well, and probably beyond that, right? Because we're up in the corner of the valley, so I know it takes a little bit of effort to get here. That's a great comment, and I actually don't know. We have the ability to direct construction traffic. In other words, if we say 13th East is the wrong road, maybe we push them and say all construction access needs to come and go via 5th South and Foothill Drive, and push them out that way. I don't know exactly. We haven't looked quite that far yet, but that's a great comment and something I'll bring up in our next meeting. Okay, awesome. Thank you very much. I will share with Esther, and Esther and I have been talking a little bit about this project, and I'm committed to make sure that the community knows what this is going to look like. There are lab spaces in this building, which means that there are going to be vents, and so this noise mitigation is going to be very, very important to understand, so that all the practices that we're studying right now can be applied to this building to make sure we're not making the problem any worse. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
One of the things that we were able to do with the law building is actually do some things with the fans and the construction vehicle traffic and where they went. Andrew? So if we can do that on this as well, like where things go and the fans, and we did that with the law building, and it helped the light pollution, into the neighborhood.
Yeah. Another thing we're very.
Okay, be very great. So everybody, wow, it's 8:30. We're ending on time. That's pretty impressive. A good start. Certainly there are a lot of questions still, and a lot will change, and there will be a lot that we need to keep working on, and we will. We have a very strong board. We have 13 people on our executive board that are very committed to representing and doing the right thing and working with you and with everyone else that comes in the area. Anybody who is interested in joining our efforts, we're more than welcoming to you related to that. Again, our philosophy is to try and first work collaboratively as much as we can and build relationships, because it's all of us, so that's really our goal. It's a little odd right now with our meetings because we're meeting quarterly, again, out of abundance of caution related to COVID. And our main vehicle has been Facebook. You know, many people don't like Facebook. We are attempting to post on it tidbits about our neighborhood every single day. So there's a lot of information that's going there. We are working on a newsletter that will be starting. The newsletter, though, will only be monthly. So again, to stay current with what's happening, really, even if you create a dummy account and this is the only thing you look at, you might want to just check out the Facebook page because it does have information for you. Again, we also have an email list, but we try to do it as sparingly as possible because we don't want to be flooding people with emails. Some of the neighborhood has started block captains so that we can help keep people informed. So all of your ideas and suggestions are very welcome. I very much appreciate your coming tonight. Please keep your comments and questions coming and your involvement. It's an awesome neighborhood. Everybody wants to come here now, and we're going to do what we can to protect it. So thank you very much.